I think it was, Gary sent out an email about the VCP network. And it was put on by a gentleman called Philip Gatan from Chalmers University in Gothenburg, Sweden. And we jumped, Jordache and I jumped at the opportunity because our country profile was in Sweden, so we're already focused on that country. But we wanted to share with you what we saw in Sweden, what we experienced. And some of the opportunities that there are in Sweden from the university side and from the technology transfer aspect. So the VCP network is comprised of multiple universities that have programs similar to ours. So 2-year, 1-year entrepreneur programs from business schools. The network, the idea of the VCP is to create sort of a dialogue between these programs, compare the different environments for technology transfer, and to share ideas. So we got the funding to go to Chalmers University, and we also took the opportunity to go to an incubator up there.
And just to give you guys a little bit of context on this, so started last June 2012. Dave Gibson was the University of Texas's representative, and all these faculty members from all of these universities got together in Gothenburg, and this is where the VCP kind of formed, and they said, okay, how do we share this knowledge amongst all these different types of programs? And so this conference that was supposed to happen in April that Gary sent an email about was more the student side. So there was the faculty side, now the students are trying to also launch on or actually attach and become a student, VCP student network. So that's what this conference was supposed to come about, and all that's a little more context behind it. So.
Yeah. So a little bit about the Swedish innovation system. I mean, Sweden is admired by the world for having very good quality of living standards. When they told us about a concept that they called the good life. And it's something that they believe that every citizen is entitled to, and it's an ideal that they strive towards. They're very egalitarian in their interactions, even in their business school. We were talking with some folks from Chalmers University. They have teams like ours. They're a little bit smaller, they're like 3 people, and they start a company with University Technologies. And they were they were saying, we have an issue where none of us wants to elect ourselves to be CEO, because I wouldn't put myself above anybody else to do that. So that's their mindset. Their society is more focused on social welfare and cradle to the grave entitlements. And they're also very, very innovative. Their mentality is to focus on processes. So they plan a lot of things out from the beginning.
Explain that picture real quick.
Yeah, so Fika time, Fika is their word for coffee break. And it's something that they all do at about 3 p.m. every single day. So they'll be working and they'll stop and say, hey, it's time for Fika. And they'll all just stop, get around, they'll drink either coffee or beer, and just have a conversation. So it was just a very good example of just the team-oriented aspect of their society.
Right. In a sense, they have a team happy hour every day at 3 o'clock. They want to, in a sense, it's a set time, so it's very good.
Yeah, and they still do the happy hour after work too.
Exactly. So it's pre-game.
Pre-happy hour.
What's up, Don?
That equality in the team, not wanting to appoint a CEO, sorry if I missed this, was that common in all of the culture there, or just this one specific company you were visiting with, like or startups, I should say?
No, that was all of the teams. I mean, they all said that that's just the way they do things. And Sweden's also notorious. Sweden's also notorious for when you deal with companies there, they might take longer to make decisions because they value consensus amongst all the team members. So they'll wait until somebody has had time to say everything I need to say, and then down to the last person.
And one other thing on that though, John, we learned this from the first trip we went to the Innovative Incubator, we'll talk about it in a second. But it's even along the lines when you're just doing business, right? When you're in a business meeting, Americans, we're not afraid to have a debate or have a conversation, but it's a point where you don't get loud, you don't get animated. Like I'd be screwed over there, right? I talk with my hands, I sit there, I just get excited. But they won't tell you that. They'll sit there in the meeting and be like, okay, yeah, but then they won't invite you to any more meetings. Like they'll exclude you out of the group without having confrontation. So it's their culture to avoid confrontation, and you will also avoid putting yourself above your peers or somebody else. So it's this whole mindset of how do you, in a sense, how's leadership happen when it's the culture, it's the norm to stay with everybody else out there. It's very unique.
So their program structure is 2 years. The first year they spend on learning, concepts like we do in this program. Second year is focused on commercializing the technologies. They actually have incubator space, so each team has office space at the university. Like I said before, a 3-person team. The people who run the program, like Matt's longest, they mentor the teams, so they get that mentoring, and they also have guaranteed funding. Some more pictures. We attended a class on social entrepreneurship.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
This guy
stuck in on the class.
This guy right here, he actually helped in the Libya conflict, and also in Egypt. Oh, I'm sorry, in Egypt and in Syria, when they shut down the internet, getting mobile networks up so that they could get information in and out.
It was a very interesting class because basically all they were talking about is how do you basically get technologies when there's all these other factors coming back. When they can just shut down the internet or they can just cut the cord. How do you get this communication out? So they came up with this very ingenious way in the sense of how to basically get communications to the people on the ground during this whole rise and being able to communicate. But it was very interesting to get that aspect. We don't have any social entrepreneurship class or aspects in our program, so being able to sit in on that class was very insightful.
Yeah. So like they have a built-in incubator, and the way that they've marketed, that's Matt right there, he's the director of the program. The way that they've built it is they market their teams to researchers at the university. Now researchers have teacher's privilege, so they don't have like an OTC like we have here. What happens is the researchers have 100% ownership over their IP, but a lot of times they're not motivated to commercialize it. So what they've done, a way that they've addressed this, is they say, okay, you're going to have 3 people who are dedicated to your technology. We're going to have the mentorship from the leaders at the program, and you're going to have guaranteed funding. So they kind of package it like that. And it's attractive to the researchers because then they get to go on and just concentrate on research. Then we met with a company that had launched out of the Chalmers School of Entrepreneurship, Nimble. Their CEO, Jonas Martinson, he's a cool guy. We got to sit down with him and go through their whole process, their whole story of how they got funding to do the prototype. They worked with the inventor, how they had to pivot to get to the scale for production. And the interesting thing about them is because of the incubated environment that they launched out of, now they're looking for external funding, and they're saying that they had to change their whole kind of mindset, going from before they're framing it as this is a sustainable business, and a lot of them those entrepreneurs will start out thinking that it's going to be a business for life, and then when they get out and they try to raise large amounts of funding, they have to start focusing on an exit, because that's what those type of lenders want.
I just handed out, this is some brochures of their actual technology, their basically electric vehicle type thing. So that's one of the brochures they handed out. So we'll just take a look if you want to see what they're doing.
That's a big difference between kind of how we look or introduce the things here and how they. Here's some more pictures. We got to ride an electric motorcycle, which is scary because it's completely silent.
You don't hear it at all.
It's really fast, though.
Is this thing on?
It's still really fast though.
And this is one of the prototypes right here of their actual thing you guys see on theirs down in the little garage.
I'll let Jordache talk about it.
Cool. Thanks, Ronald. All right, so guys, first off, when we got to Sweden, we were in Gothenburg, which is where Chalmers University is at. But we actually took a train up to Trollhättan. I don't think I can do it. to Jordache, and actually that's where Innovatum's incubator's at. So we got connected with Innovatum. Think of ATI type of incubation type of thing. Ronald actually met this lady, Sonia, at South by Southwest. She came up to the MSTC booth. And she I don't know how the story went, but it was something along the lines of, I'm from Sweden, hey, we're going to Sweden, let's meet up type of thing. So she invited us out there for the afternoon, and we got to sit down with them. Very, very cool place. So this gives you a little context on Jordache. This is where it's like a mini Detroit type of thing. This is where Saab was founded. They have all the factories there where Saab was founded. They're all the production. And this is the park where this innovation place is at. It's an old Saab factory. So they used to build, railroads, locomotive stuff there, airplane stuff there. I didn't know Saab started with airplanes. Like was news to me, this moment ignorance. But so that's kind of like the environment out there. Another thing I want to touch on in Jordache, they actually call it Trolleywood, which was new to me. This is Film Voss, which means Film West. And what this is basically a very, very famous film school. They have a lot of film and creative people in this area. I mean, Danny Glover was there. I mean, they were naming actors that were out there filming stuff all the time. But this is a very renowned film school there. So I'll say that because Innovatum has 3 different areas right now. They have the incubator, they have a science center for younger children. It's like a science museum. They also have a project arena, which is actually in the incubator. They have basically a manufacturing floor with all these little robots down there. People can go test and build and do all this other stuff. So you have the office space upstairs, you have a manufacturing place downstairs, you have the university on the 2nd level. So it's just one house of a whole bunch of innovation happening. And what I want to touch on is they have 3 areas of focus there at Innovatum. So like ATI, and I have some experience at ATI, we're focused on energy, we're focused on IT wireless, and then I can't even remember the third one. Life sciences, bioscience. Thank you, John. Was biosciences. So compare that to Innovatum. They're very focused on energy and environmental. At Sweden, they're very well renowned on their environmental side of things. But the creative nutrition is something that was very unique to us, but makes a lot of sense. This is where they get a lot of the creative people in. They have a lot of people making animation down there. They got a lot of people doing music, doing videos. But the thing is, you guys got these creative folks here. Put them with these engineers and these manufacturers. I mean, it's a great environment to be in. I mean, when we were walking around, they were like, can we just please stay here for a little bit? Like, it'd be awesome just to be a fly on the wall in that building. And then they also have production, which is the manufacturing side of things, because it's very intensive manufacturing economy still. So that's Innovatum.
One thing
Oh, yeah.
to add about them
Yes.
is they're very integrated with the community. So like government officials will come and ask them to solve community problems in the area because they're the innovative people. So it's very like integrated with government people, and they try to solve social problems.
And that's a good point. I'll touch on it in a second, because the thing is, these incubators, these are all funded by the government. So they get their funding from the government. It's a socialistic economy or country. But the thing is, compared to an ATI or a Capital Factory, where they're out there either trying to make money or getting grants, it's all federally funded, or government funded, I should say. So this was their website. We made it on the website. So this was during their, what's it called? Tea time?
Oh, fika.
Fika time. This is their fika time when we had a whole bunch of coffee and stuff like that. We got to hang out with this guy right here. This is the founder, Donnie. I can't pronounce his name, but he was an awesome guy. He started the incubator 96, 97, I believe it was. And then there's us 3, and then this is a gentleman that actually has a company out there on the music side of things. So it was in Sweden. I actually put the English one on there too. But they were just saying that we met him at South by Southwest, came from Austin. And actually one of the guys that was there when we showed up, he has a little Austin City Limits shirt on. They were trying to be all Austin-y for us when we showed up. So it was very cool. So that was Innovatum. So Omni. So as Ronald mentioned before, you got to think of like the Swedish economy like this. You got the entrepreneur, the people that are trying to start the thing, and then you have the banking. There's not really much, there's a VC environment there, but it's a very small VC environment. So what Omni is basically the government agency that tries to fill in this gap of funding, right? They're the ones who actually help fund and get this innovation started. These are the guys that fund the incubators. This is the money comes from the government, funds the incubators, help funds universities, makes loans out or makes grants out to actually entrepreneurs to get some of these things started. So just to touch off base, so Sweden's broken up in about 7 regions by the government, and we were in West Boston, I think that's Boston. And so basically each region is in a sense allocated a budget from the government each year, and then they dispense it based off a regional level and then down to a local level. But as Ronald mentioned in the beginning, the good life, this strategy starts from the way top and it's pushed all the way down. It's from the top it's a top-down approach, but it's one of those things that you have to have in an economy like that. You have to have the government top support to get things done like that. Like I said, the goal was basically to close this gap between the banker and then the inventor. It serves four purposes. This Omni does. They do advising, which is more of a coaching session. People pay about $160 a year, get 2-hour minimum month sessions for coaching, mentoring type of thing from some of these individuals. And the guy that we interviewed with, or we sat down with, he was a former VC, so he was I think he was kind of a unique person in this situation because they're trying to transform this organization. So he's coming in here being a lot more risky because what happens is an anomaly is the government's going to come back and say, hey, how much money did you give out? How much money did you make? Oh, you made too much money. You guys aren't risky enough. You guys got to give out more money or take more risk for innovation because, once again, it's more the thing is they're trying to get the innovation out instead of trying to actually make money on this thing. Their goal is not to make money. Their goal is just to try to get as much innovation out there. So it's very unique compared to how we are. Finance, and I have another slide I'll touch on in a second what the purpose is. I mentioned before venture and risk capital, they call it. It's very limited there. And they don't even mess with anything under 2.5 million SEK, which is Swedish krona. It's about $400,000. So that's another thing. Same thing we kind of learned when we were in London. Everything's on a lot smaller scale. It seems like in Europe we're asking about raising money and funding compared to, we're asking for $500,000 for, seed money. $500,000 VC money over there type of thing. So it's one of those unique things. And then finally the incubation, like I mentioned before, these are the guys who actually fund these incubators. These are guys that work directly with the incubators. And it's a very close-knit ecosystem over there from what we saw. So finance, this is the very cool part, or depending on how you feel, cool or unique compared to the United States. So they have this, we'll start from the top down. So if you were a brand new inventor or an entrepreneur kind of like we are, and you had this new idea, you would come here and say, you know what? Imagine when we were in Rob Adams' class, we have to do market validation. We could just go to the government and say, you know what? Here's $2,000 to $8,000 for free for grant to go prove your concept. You can go do your market validation testing, and here's $8,000. And all you got to do is fill out about 2 or 3 pieces of paper, and you can get $8,000 to go prove your technology. The next thing is they have these things called soft loans. And what this is you can get up to about 250 SEK, which is about $40,000. And what this is a loan, a soft loan from the government, meaning if your business fails or your proof of concept doesn't prove out, you don't got to pay it back. So it's a grant. If it's successful, you're going to pay it back at a very, very low rate compared to what you get in the market. So once again, enticing these. I'm sorry, what?
That sounds like a disincentive to me.
I don't know. Why do you think that?
If you don't have to pay it back, are you going to take as many risks as you should?
Why? I would take more risks. If I'm not going to lose my money, I can just do whatever I want. I can be risky as heck, and I don't got to worry about losing my money.
Right, but the whole point is that you want it to be successful.
You got to take risks sometimes.
You've got to temper the risk with reality.
Well, I'm sure they have some controls. They're not going to hand out money left
If
and
there's
right.
no cost, do you do that calculation?
Don't know
I
what to
wouldn't
tell
mind
you
having
now.
40.
But I guess from our perspective, I'd like, from Sweden just in general, they got a lot of support at these early stages compared to in the States. We kind of have some struggle trying to, bootstrap and trying to get these things off the ground. Compared to later down the line, it's a lot easier, relatively speaking, to raise seed money, angel money, venture money compared to over there. So in a perfect world, you go to Sweden, go prove your proof of concept, pick it up, move to the United States, and start your company up over here. I mean, that's, in a sense, would be the ideal world. And then just to move on, so next thing, the innovation loans, it's a traditional loan. That's about, like I said, that's 160K. It's 160K loan or $1 million SEK. And then finally, the new financing is really where their VCs come in and they actually, and they really partner. So they're like, okay, if you come to Omni and they say, I need 20 million SEK, they're going to say, okay, well, we can give you 4. We'll go help you. We'll talk to other partners, other banks, or the other Omnis throughout the other regions and see if there's money helping out. So they're very, very incentivized from the Omni's perspective to get this money out and get you money.
So is that last bit equity or debt?
That'd be equity. That could be equity. Well, it could be debt too. I mean, it's how you can structure it with debt or equity.
In your research, did you guys find that these guys were getting money from Sweden, starting it, and then moving over to Eastern Europe to do the company?
No. No, and one thing that we did notice though is with let me take a step back. One thing that they focus on heavily over there is how we're here in the United States. We have a huge market. We have 50 states, right? They only have about 4 million or 9 million people in this country. I think it's 9 million. Anyway, but it was small, right? Where it's basically 80% of the Sweden population lives in southern Sweden, right? But the thing is, their whole focus is not just to get this thing launched. We're not going to evaluate this technology to launch Sweden. It's to go global. Like that's their whole focus. They don't even think about just launching a product in Sweden. They think about going globally. But then when they go globally, they always go to, or they seem to trend to countries where they don't have to speak, they can speak English. So they don't do much business in Germany because you got to speak German to do business in Germany. But they go to Norway, they go to, the other Scandinavian countries because it's a little easier and the cultures are very similar. So that's kind of how they think about it when they're looking to launch it. Answer your question?
Yeah.
Yes.
Go ahead, Lisa.
Go ahead, Lisa.
Will all the loans are available for international entrepreneurs too, or only for?
There is, I know, let's see, let me try to remember. I know the Amway will help out non-Swedish citizens, I think in the advising side. I don't think these early ones I know aren't available. You have to have some tie to Sweden, or the company is going to start in Sweden. I'm not exactly sure on the new finance on the bigger grants because we didn't touch them. We were more focused on the early stages, and we just kind of found some of the information later on.
On the proof of concept grant, it just seems too easy. I think everybody in this class would have gone for it, but we're not a real fair representation of general population. I'm just curious, do you have any numbers on how many of those things they give out every year?
No, we didn't get any. They didn't have any numbers.
We did get the indication that they were easy to get, as long as you are hooked up with your, incubator, as long as you fill out the proper paperwork. You have to realize that in Sweden, they've got a lot of entitlement programs. Like you'll get, you can get like multiple years off of work just to raise your child at 80%.
Yeah.
I mean, that sort of thing goes on all the time.
You don't pay any college for kids, all the health care
Yeah.
free and all that stuff. And actually, one of the guys, Don, the guy that started innovating, he was very nice. Actually, he was going to give us a ride back to the train station. He actually gave us a tour of the whole little town in his car. So we were talking, and we're like, so how much money is a good salary? We're trying to figure out how much money he makes, you know what I'm saying? And basically, he was saying, 660 SEK, which is a little over $100,000, right? He's like, what he makes, but he has a vacation home, he has another home, has 3 cars. Because the thing is he has 3 boys, doesn't have to pay for into college, all this other stuff. And we're like, well, he must be paying a crap load of taxes. His tax rate was 32% last year. So on that, so he's like, I'm more than happy to pay 32%. If I don't got to pay for college, I don't got to worry about healthcare, I got to do all this. He's like, 32, I can pay 32%.
But they
But
have 5% sales tax.
But they have high sales tax on that side of things. So they have to pay for it somehow. But at the end of the day, it's coming back to that.
That's part of it. They don't have a military.
It's nice when you don't have to worry.
What about military?
You can live
Do you
under
believe that because it's a small country and it's a homogeneous country, that this kind of a system works in such a small controlled environment versus a larger country like India and the United States, it would be.
They're having some of the same problems with entitlement programs that we, often talk about, which is people just say, well, I'm not going to work because, But I think you're right in that sense that they have a very hardworking mentality. So people want to, toe the line.
And one person we did ask that to was, I remember specifically, is Sonia, the lady at Innovatum, and we're like, it seems like y'all give them a lot, like what's the incentive for them to work type of thing. And what she said, in their situation in Trollhättan, it's the fact that there's a lot of pride, because when Saab went bankrupt finally for this last time, their economy went, because it was basically the thing that held the whole economy together in Trollhättan. So now it's a whole, I got to leave something for my generation behind me. It's really, it's really a national type of view. It says, I got to give back to my country or whatever it is, because you're raised that way, everything. It's the whole entitlement thing from the time you were born. It's that whole mentality of, I just can't sit back and lean back and just take this all in, because that's not how I was raised, and that type of thing. Now, this new generation that's coming up now, that's the big question, is how is the new generation's work ethic and all that stuff is going to come to play when they come, to basically working age, and then all these other folks are going to be coming on the backside of things and have to pay for all these benefits. So that's that question right there.
Just curious if on the microloans, soft loans, if you had any insight on what the barriers were to who, like, is that just something someone can apply to and they get in line, or is it screened like the SBA would screen to make sure you've done your homework and you're taking it seriously?
Yeah, I mean, they do due diligence. They'll go through. I mean, once you get past that proof of concept loan, you go to the soft loans. They're going to do their due diligence.
Okay, so it's a step.
Yeah. So this, like,
Okay,
really,
yeah.
so this is the first step, second, third, fourth, all the way
Gotcha.
down, type of thing. So yeah.
What is one of their biggest success stories, I guess, or something like that? Like, any companies that have launched?
Yeah, I can get it to you. I know Chalmers had a success story.
I can't remember the name of it.
I'll send it to you.
We got our best people work on it. We'll get back to you.
Is there a technology focus like life sciences or petroleum?
So they're from what we've saw, they're very heavily focused on energy. They're very heavily focused, and this is, I'll speak from innovative aspect. They're heavily focused on the on that creative aspect, innovative with the manufacturing on the side. Now, from what we saw, some of the technologies like the teams were working on. I mean, in Chalmers, they were anything from there was some software to help you manage your assets and basically invest from a company's perspective. To I'm trying to think what was the
It was a medical technology.
It was a medical
They're
technology.
using lasers.
Spotify.
Spotify is huge. That's what I mean. They're based out there. We actually met a couple of guys that work at Spotify out there, and that's if you work at Spotify, it was like working at Facebook in the United States, 6 years ago, where everybody wants to go work at. So, and we got
Angry Birds out of Sweden? Who was it? Finland?
Angry Birds, I think it's Finland.
That's a game. But so yeah. But anyways, this was the guy Saeed S-A-E-D is his name, and he was a gentleman that was a former VC that now works at Omni. So, but that's okay. So here's this general pictures. So this is their little typical pea soup with some pancakes, and they had beer, and they have this little punch, which is basically schnapps. And they do this noon on Thursdays, some tradition. And then I actually got a chance to. So this is a team from Innovatum. I actually joined them my last day there. They were doing this International Space Apps Hackathon, which NASA put on all throughout the world. There was like 8,000 people doing the whole thing at once. So I joined them. This is some of the animators that were working on there, and they're actually putting together. They're actually creating a space station right now, animation. But they're putting together like a why do we go to space and explore space video type of thing for this thing. So it turned out very cool, but it was a great experience to get out there too. Some more random stuff. This is us having a little bit of fun. This is a home-cooked Swedish meatball meal we got the last night. And this is a sumo suit that they put me in at the incubator.
Oh, you ate well there, didn't you?
Dude, it was fun. We had a blast there. So this is during the peak of time when we were up in the incubator. So impressive. So anyways, so the guys, this VCP thing, it's still in the infancy stage, right? They're still trying to figure out how we're going to structure this student network. How is this thing going to come? It's kind of like some of the same conversations we had when we were in London. How we're going to stay connected. How we're going to share knowledge. Same type of thing is going to be trying to go on, but this on a global scale. How do we get all these 16 universities throughout the world with these students, these alumni sharing knowledge and connecting and talking about new opportunities, new ways to do business? Some challenges right now. It's very fragmented. Like I said, it's fragmented from the students to the professors, and it's still in the infancy. There's not a lot of structure around, which also is an opportunity. I'll touch on in a second. Faculty level momentum only right now. Geographic location and resources was the reason they actually had to quote unquote cancel the conference because the other students at the other universities couldn't secure funding in time to get them some of the students there. So they actually had to postpone that, and also the students VCP and the program link. So let me talk about that. So anyways, it's the VCP it wants to be an ongoing thing, right? This whole network wants to be ongoing. Chalmers University is a 2-year program, and they envision it as a student-run organization. So students are going to be the ones actively running this thing. So how do we get this thing off the ground when we're only in school for a year, they're only in school for 2 years, and we got to continue to hand it off, continue to grow. It's the same problems alumni associations have. Same thing. How do we do that? And we have some ideas that we're going to share. We'll share with Gary and you guys at a later time. But some of the opportunities, though, one thing we talked to Sonia about is we need to figure out a way that we could potentially have like an exchange program between an ATI associate and have them go work at their incubator, and one of their guys at the incubator at Innovative come work in the United States. Because one of the things Sonia mentioned, it was kind of me and Ronald's ears kind of perked up. They're like, we have a lot of these innovations, we have a lot of technology out here. we don't have enough people to try to commercialize these technologies, try to have, good people to get over there and try to commercialize this stuff. So it's like, well, let's figure out if we can somehow partner up and say, go get 3 months in Sweden experience working in incubator, come back and work at ATI for 3 months, and you're gonna get a very vast experience about that. The Global Entrepreneur Network, just building a whole network about that, info, the innovation now. And then, once again, I said it's the ability to shape and form thing. Yes.
Did you talk about putting some of the technologies in for QuickBooks?
It's a good.
So, recommendations for MSTC. Anyways, no. Good point, man. I like how you think. So anyway, guys, another thing that we're talking about is like an exchange program. Imagine that one of us would go there for 1 semester, right? We can be online, we can be in class wherever we want, but you gotta go over there, gotta sit in their class, got their experience, and they're so excited. I mean, I think we talk more about our program a lot of times than when we were trying to go find out information, because they're so curious about this. Everybody wants to come to Silicon Valley. Everyone wants to come to Austin. Everybody New York. They hear about all this stuff, but being able to get that experience, I think it could potentially be a win-win between the MSTC and Chalmers and building that future relationship. So this is another thing for MSTC. This is probably our number one thing that we see at Chalmers is, guys, year 2, you pick your technology. Imagine each of our teams is on one floor. We have our own MSTC incubator, and we each have our own office space where the teams come and work, and we have all the support. We have an MSTC incubator. So we're like, we need to figure out somehow, some way to implement that in the MSTC program. Whether it's a partnership with ATI or partnership, whatever it is, somehow, some way, instead of having, doing Google Hangouts every week, or, trying to find time for the teams to meet up, just being able to have a one-stop shop where we're able to commercialize technology, all working on the same time, working on the same curriculum type of thing. Yes, ma'am.
So did you read Greg's email? Greg Parnell?
When? What email?
He sent it out yesterday. He's proposing some system like that.
Was it that one that had like 6 paragraphs in it?
It's only this long. Short paragraph.
I'm like, I probably skimmed it. I'm about to go back and look at that one.
Take a look at it, because he's willing to put some time into it.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. We kind of ran this idea, started playing the seed while we're over there. Like, hey, what do you guys think about this? And Mats is hopefully going to join us, which is Gary's equivalent over there at Chalmers, and he's very excited about this. So we're like, we're just got to figure out how we can keep this momentum going and figure this out somehow. Now, we're not going to be able to take advantage of it, but somebody will. This is another one. So Ronald talked to you a little bit about the incubator and how the inventor basically has all this incentive to try to get the technology into this incubation thing. So the incubator they spell E-E-N, incubator basically for Chalmers. That's the Chalmers incubator, and what they do is they have a staff of about 4 people. They said they get about 120 applications a year of basically inventors trying to submit their technologies into Chalmers incubator to their students, because they have built up such a reputation around the city that says, if you bring your technology here, you're going to get funded, you're going to get some success, you're going to get some things going. So they have all these technologies, 120 coming through. They filter down to about 20 of them, and then they pick 20 inventors to come and present to the class, to each of the teams, and the teams get to pick their technology. Compared to, I'm Brett Cornwell, here's 3 technologies, here's 3 technologies, here's 3 technologies type of thing, right? So the whole thing is, instead of us going to find technologies, they're getting all this technology, all these great technologies already given to them, they get to choose. So it's a big change compared to how we do it, which it would be awesome to get to, which I think we could once, but MSTC needs to continue to generate momentum and generate the reputation and what we can actually offer some of these inventors about it. Collaboration amongst UT colleges, they have a great, at Chalmers they have a great basic collaboration between their engineers and their the chemistry people and the business people. Unlike here, where we have Steve Nichols, who's one of the greatest engineer people around here. But have we ever actually had a formal thing that we actually will talk to engineering students, or we actually interact with some of the things they're working on? Can we help you out with some of y'all's projects or something like that? So being able to have more collaboration, we talked about it before. There's a lot of politics in campuses and universities, but it's something they're doing over there. They're doing it very well, kind of similar to what we saw in Cambridge. And then the last thing is, go to Sweden as an international trip. This is the MSTC. The guy, it's an English-speaking country. There's 3 or 4 different places you guys can go over there. I mean, it'd be they're so excited to have us come over there. If we took 80 people over there and had them being able to interact, and me and Ronald, we said this all the time since we've been back. It just gives you a totally another perspective. Add that on top of London and put that together. It gives you a totally different perspective of what it is out there globally. And I think that's it. So, is there any other questions James. Ask a question. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Take me with you next time.
Hey,